परमहंस प्रवर्जकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य बीबीटी फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवर्जकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Today we will discuss text 18. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Please chant. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mataji, please. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Mukhatastalu nirbhinnam jihva tatropajayate tato nana raso jage jihvayayo digamyate. Synonyms: mukhata, from the mouth; talu, the palate; nirbhinam, being generated; jihva, the tongue; tatra, thereupon; upajayate, becomes manifested; tata, thereupon; nana rasaha, various tastes; jage, became manifested; jivaya, by the tongue; yaha, which; adhigamyate, become relished. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: from the mouth the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence, so that the tongue can relish them. Purport: this gradual process of evolution suggests the explanation of the controlling deities, Adhideva, because Varuna is the controlling deity for all relishable juices. Therefore, the mouth becomes the resting place for the tongue, which tastes all the different juices, of which the controlling deity is Varuna. This suggests, therefore, that Varuna was also generated along with the development of the tongue. The tongue and the palate, being instrumental, are adhibhutam, or forms of matter, but the functioning deity, who is a living entity, is Adhideva, whereas the person undergoing the function is Adhyatma. Thus, the three categories are also explained as to their birth after the opening of the mouth of the Virat Purusha. The four principles mentioned in this verse serve to explain the three main principles, namely the Adhyatma, Adhideva, and Adhibhutam, as explained before. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So I seek the blessings of our superiors here. Translation one more time. From the mouth the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence, so that the tongue can relish them. So in text 14, it says, just hear from me how the potency of His Lordship divides one into three, called the controlling deities, the controlled entities, and the material bodies in the manner mentioned above. So here it's starting to, Sukadev Goswami is starting to give a bit more explanation on what these three potencies are, how they are manifested. And in the previous verse, yesterday, we heard how from the Virat Purusha, the mouth uh, was, the hunger and thirst was generated, and then there was the mouth, so you can eat and drink. So continuing from there, now here is talking about how after you have the mouth, then there is the desire to taste the rasas, and then the palate and tongue is generated. But then with this, it's also mentioned that how there is a controlling deity for all these different senses, all these different elements. And as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, controlling deity here is Varuna, who is actually the deity for all relishable juices. Now, I remember hearing Nekatma Prabhu, how he was mentioning yesterday that we are not independent, although we may think we are independent. So we can see sometimes someone loses the taste. You cannot taste the food. One example that comes to memory is like how this example is given, that a person suffering from jaundice, they cannot taste the sweetness in the sugar. But as the diseased condition, it becomes, one heals from the diseased condition, then the taste for sweetness starts to come. So if one is independent, why does one lose the taste? So we can see there are like other factors that determine the functioning of even our own body, all the different parts in the body. But one cannot understand these things unless one actually has knowledge about these things. Just like a child, they may not know like who is organizing all these things. They may think, oh, it's just there. It's like I was reading some parts in this book, Life Comes from Life, which is very relevant to this section actually, how we can see even all these different senses, they are manifesting from the Virat Purusha. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying that the scientists, they work with all these elements, like even they say, the elements came together and things started to happen. So he's saying, but where did these elements come from? What's the source? So for that, they have no answer. They're like, it just was there. So a person with not a complete understanding, they may think what they are thinking is right, but a person in knowledge, when they see or they hear from them, they know that what this person is saying is not correct. Like I've been thinking about like studying Bhagavatam, some of these points, how in the school, I think Nekatma Prabhu was mentioning some of these points. In the school, we learn, they teach us that, like the humans come from animals through the evolution. And there are these other theories, Sura Prabhu was mentioning other day about the Big Bang. Everything started from a Big Bang. So here we can see in the Bhagavatam there is so clear information how it actually happens. But if we go to these educational institutes, then that's what we are taught. So in this book, The Forbidden Archaeology, Druta Karma Prabhu, he mentions some of these points that the the modern system is such they filter this information as per their own requirements. And I was just hearing one lecture by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami on this verse, just to get some idea what should I say about this verse. So he was saying this, that this is what, like, people who have no understanding, they just accept it. Whatever you are being told, you just accept it because you don't have any higher understanding, any clear information. But again, he was mentioning the same point, like, what's the answer? Where is all the energy? Where are all the elements coming from? What's the source? Are they giving you a clear information on that? But there is no clear information on that part. So one has to decide for themselves what kind of authorities they want to follow. Because whatever authorities you follow, that's where you get your knowledge from, your understanding from. So therefore, we can understand the difference of mentalities between people. So here, a person, what kind of person will accept this kind of knowledge? One who has become, who has, so there are only two ways. One is like someone has to make contact with a devotee, or um, they have to become a little open to accepting other kinds of perspectives, not just get stuck with one perspective. Like we see, even meeting people in sharing Krishna consciousness, there are some people, they are little bit open to hearing. I was at UCLA other day, and there was one young student, and she was like, I want to learn something real, not just something made up. And I was like, what are you talking about? You are at UCLA. It's like a big popular school in the whole country. And what are you saying? And she was like, yeah, I've been looking for this kind of information because I know this is real. There is no change. It gives you the real thing. And I was like, wow, how come she's saying something like this? Like, she paid so much fees, tuition fees, to get into the school, and I'm sure it's not so easy to get to a school like that. So, but it's amazing. There is this one student who has this little understanding that there is something more. Um, and then there are many others. They just look at you and like, what kind of books do you have? They just, some people, they just kind of seeing what's going on here. But many of them, they, even if they see it, they are like, this is not for me. So we can see the difference. One definitely has to become a little open to accepting that there are other perspectives. But if one just becomes like closed minded, this is the only way, this is how it is, then they just get stuck there. And they won't be. But you see, the one point that Maharaj was mentioning was this, that they make so many of these bold claims, but they are not able to understand a simple fact that we are not this body. Just a simple fact, they are not able to figure that out. And one cannot figure it out unless one is influenced by the gunas. What's that verse? प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणे कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा कर्ता हमiti manyate. So, in this book, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that the scientists, they take credit for inventing, making all these new things for themselves, but they don't give credit to where all these elements are coming from that they are playing around with, that they are working with. So here we can see how Srila Sukdev Goswami is helping us understand all these aspects, how there is a deity for, even for taste, for here, for eating, and then in further verses we'll see how for every different sense organ there is a particular deity who is overseeing that. So unless one, of course, like someone say that, oh, there are like so many people, they don't accept God, or still they are doing fine, their life is fine, they are happy. Like even we meet many people, they are like, oh, life is good, I'm happy, I don't need this. But for how long? Are they happy all the time? So recently I've been asking this question sometimes to people that, do you like to be happy? And then of course they laugh at it, and then I was like, so you like to be happy all the time or just sometimes? And then they'll laugh again, of course all the time. And then some of them will say, and it's not possible to be happy all the time. But that's not what the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is teaching. Why can't you be happy all the time? Because you don't know what happiness is, how to be happy. But that doesn't mean no one else knows how to be happy. So one has to at least give up this ahankar that I am the only one and everything is revolving around me, and that's all that's there. And that's how it will be also. But sooner or later, everyone finds out that things happen, someone is going through some challenge or this or that, and people realize, okay, like we can see with the current situation, so many people are starting to say this, that during this time I had more time, I was feeling lonely, or I lost my job, or my relationship broke up, or this happened or that happened, so many problems. So one at least has to come to the understanding that I'm struggling. Mame vamso jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana manashasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. So karshati, there is this struggle, is there. Sooner or later it comes, it shows up. But a person influenced by the modes, what do they think? I can figure it out. I'll figure it out. But person with spiritual understanding, proper understanding, they are not bewildered by these challenges. They see it as an opportunity to grow from there, to transcend. And that's the devotees. That's the devotees' mood, that not bewildered by the challenge, but instead of that, a devotee sees the challenge as the mercy, and to transcend, use that opportunity to increase one's devotion, increase one's service, increase one's love for God, for Krishna. And we can see, especially this month, we see more and more devotees are coming to the program, and because devotees see this is an opportunity to increase, do a little bit more service than I would normally do. So the Kartik Vrata, Kartik Mas is starting today. just a few words since it's very relevant to the taste factor. Um, so this Kartik Vrata, it's also known as Urja Vrata, Urjeshwari. It's actually glorifying the position of the topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani. But of course, we see the whole pastime, how Mother Yashoda, she binds Krishna. So generally, everyone wants to control, be the controller. It's a natural tendency for a person in conditioned consciousness to be the controller. You know, everything should happen the way I want it. But a devotee, they understands the desire of the Lord. What's the desire of the Lord? What would increase the pleasure of the Lord? And here, especially remembering this pastime of Mother Yashoda binding Krishna, I was just thinking other day about this point, that here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is taking pleasure in being bound by his devotee. I mean, how can a person in materialistic consciousness understand such a thing? Like if you tell someone outside, they would think this is crazy. How can you bind God? Right? Most people would say that. How can you bind God? So, but here Krishna, he is taking pleasure in being bound by his devotee. Why? Like we can see generally one cannot bind Krishna. That's true. So they have some truth to what they are saying, but they don't understand the other aspects of it. So generally you cannot bind, but seeing the endeavor of the devotee, God, he decides to be bound. Why? Out of love, out of affection. So in general, people have this understanding about God. God is great, I'm small, this and that. So there is mostly awe and reverence understanding. Of course, that's there in our practice also, but then there are other aspects, like there are other rasas. Here we see there is the Vatsalya rasa. Mother Yashoda, she's binding her child Krishna, baby Krishna. She's doing it out of affection. She's not even, seeing him as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like we seeing the Virat Purusha, it's like very dazzling. It's very attractive, especially in the beginning. One is very attracted to this idea. So many people, they come to the museum. You ask them, what did you like? Oh, that was very beautiful. So the universal form, they would be like, that was wonderful. I loved that. I personally invited some people, and you ask them, so what did you like? The universal form is one of the attractions. Of course, there are some, they like other dioramas also, but universal form is pretty popular, especially with young people. So most people, they want to see the greatness, the opulence, but then there is the sweetness part. So this month is to understand, experience, and express that sweetness, cultivate that mood of sweetness, mood of loving devotion. There is also today's disappearance day of Murari Gupta. So I was remembering just on the point of sweetness. So Murari Gupta, he is actually senior in age to Lord Chaitanya, but he is also, he's like a very close associate of the Lord. So one point that I felt is very relevant to this is that Lord Chaitanya, Murari Gupta, he worshipped Lord Ramachandra, and he's actually an incarnation of Hanuman. So we know Hanuman's love for Lord Ram, But then one time Lord Chaitanya, he kind of convinced Murari Gupta to worship Krishna, expressing sweetness of dealings with Krishna. And then that night, Murari Gupta couldn't sleep. Next morning, he went to Lord Chaitanya. Look, you tell me what can I do? I have this so much love for my worshipable Lord Ram, and I just been crying all night. I don't want to make an offense by not taking your instruction, but at the same time, I cannot forget my Lord. And then Lord Chaitanya was so pleased. He said, I was just testing you to see your affection. And it's so pleasing to see. And then when Lord Chaitanya, he was showing the Maha Prakash Leela, so then to Murari Gupta, he says this, "Oh, you don't recognize me?" And then he asks him to, "You are the Hanuman, so go and burn the Lanka." So like that, Lord has very loving exchanges with the devotees. So this month is like a very amazing month to take this opportunity to understand these uh, deeper aspects, the other dealings of advanced devotees. Of course, we should also consider that we may not necessarily be there. Definitely, I can say for myself, but we can learn from them. We can follow in their footsteps. We can appreciate their position and cultivate some appreciation for those kind of exchanges. And just by doing that, there is actually a verse in the 11th canto. I can't remember the exact number, but there it says, even if you appreciate someone else's devotional service, you you make so much progress just by doing that. So this is our month to appreciate Mother Yashoda, Srimati Radharani in their dealings with Krishna and showing their love. So yeah, we should, but it starts with these kind of things. Like we can see people in general, they they may start to worship sun god, or not even sun god, just appreciate sun, moon. Many people they celebrate full moon, this and that. So they start accepting something, then gradually some people they may accept like Durga. Many people like this idea of Durga being the warrior goddess. So the many may come to accepting Ganesha. Even in India, many people they pray to Ganesha to remove obstacles. Uh, but they don't realize you can also ask Ganesha for devotional service to help in devotional service. Is who does Ganesha worship? He's holding the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadev on his head. So like that, once they start to accept certain parts of these Vedic elements, then gradually it helps them become open to hearing more. And once they hear these devotional aspects, especially when they hear from devotees, there's some change can take place. There is a possibility. So this is a month we can also take advantage of this month and increase our services, plan how to increase it. Yeah. So yeah, of course the devotees they know this, they accept this, and that's why we come here every day, take this opportunity to chant together, study here together. So I would conclude here, but if anyone would like to share some realization or make some comment or something, then we can do that. There is 1 minute, I think. Yes, Prabhu.
Like in one sixth grade class, the teacher takes a marker and he drops it, and he catches it. He said, "Evolution is like that. It's a fact." So it's like, he didn't really explain it. It's just that they try to, create blind faith and indoctrinate these children into that, like, believe so much in your senses of perception. It's all about the test, the scientific method. But then, science is very influenced by business. If they find some evidence, but it's not profitable, it's bad for business, then they're a bunch of quacks, or they're how do you say, discredited. Big businesses do that. Like, they make scientific discovery, but then it's not good for business, so they try to bury the evidence, like that. So we see that even the scientific process has so many flaws, but they push it on these children like it's like the only way, and indoctrinate them to have blind doubt.
Yeah.
Just have doubt in anything spiritual, because
Economical profit is the only factor.
it's the
Okay, anyone else? ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।